Okay. I will call to order this regular monthly meeting of the Village of Trumansburg Board of Trustees. Do we have any changes to the agenda? Maybe. So depending on our timing, how quickly we get through some of these things, we are going to be, as we all know, having a second meeting at the end of the month for the tax cap override law, as well as a couple other items. So if we start to get long in the tooth tonight, I may want to push a couple of those items if we want to have broader discussion. Particularly, I'm thinking the sidewalk repair one. I don't want to be here till 11 o'clock tonight, but there's a couple of things that I definitely want to discuss. And we will need an executive session at the end of the night. So just, I know Ann Corman will be joining us. If there's no members of the public, we might be able to get through this whole agenda, but if not, we might need to push a couple of things off. But other than that, I don't have any changes if no one else does.
And we have a working session Wednesday, right?
Not if we finish up the budget tonight.
Okay,
That's the other goal.
that's the goal.
Okay, our third item on the agenda is our consent agenda. We have abstract of claims for the month, as well as meeting minutes from February 10th, February 24th, and March the 5th. Abstracts total for the general fund, $301,626 even. We got to the even, very good. Water fund abstract totaling $36,048.24. Sewer fund abstract totaling $28,592.66. And that's it. And so I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Do we have a second? Any comments, questions, or need to remove anything from the consent agenda?
No, but I'd made one small note in one set of minutes.
Oh, good chance.
I don't remember. It's in the Dropbox.
Oh.
There's a comment in there,
Oh.
but it's not substantive. That's just it.
Okay, minor edit. If there are no other comments, questions, or need to remove anything from the consent agenda, all in favor of approving the consent agenda as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Item number 4 is our first public comment period. Seeing no members of the public present in person or online, we'll move right to reports of representatives. And seeing no representatives from other boards in person or online, we're 30 minutes ahead of schedule.
And firms on to all the trustees may not have seen that yet.
Yes, Ann couldn't make it tonight, but did send us an update from herself and from the county. Which brings us to reports from this board. I don't have anything to report. I do want to, though, however, take a moment to acknowledge the passing of David Tyler, village resident and long-time attorney for the village. He was attorney for the village for well over a decade, if memory serves. He was someone I got to know, I won't say very well, but well enough to know that he had what I've heard referred to as a heart for the law. And he certainly had a heart for the village, which was proven when he moved into the village several years ago. And so I was saddened to hear of his passing a few days ago, and he'll certainly be missed. So thank you, David, for your years of love and service to the village. And with that, we'll move to Marcia, fire.
I have no call reports because we had our budget meeting the night of the fire meeting, but I do want to say that I approved the $3,500 to pay for the frame repair, and the truck is on the road, which is good news. And also I need to move forward. The fire company would like to buy some more turnout gear. And that is for a total of $9,450. And that includes turnout coats and pants, 3 of them, 3 at $3,150. That's cray, but anyway, it's needed. So again, that's $9,450, and I would like to move that the board approve that purchase for the fire company coming out of the gear line. Yep.
Second,
Okay, any comments or questions about turnout gear?
does that mean new people or old gear?
No, old gear.
Oh, well.
There are no other comments or questions about turnout gear, then all in favor of purchasing 3 sets of turnout gear at the aforementioned price, please say aye. Any opposed? Okay,
And that's all I have for fire.
great. EMS Youth Street Tree Advisory Committee.
Start just by quickly noting that the fast chargers planned for here in the farmers market are still in the works. I'm hoping for a sort of midsummer timeframe. Jess, I will be connecting you with Value Stack is the name of the company. And hoping to coordinate also with Dusty. So then you may get roped in the near future. For youth, we have interviews starting for our middle school program manager, which I believe I've mentioned. But essentially this is a person who goes into the school primarily, but also runs programming, not just in the school, but also around at the library, local churches, sometimes just out in nature trails, depending on the program. But that position has been vacant for a number of months now. So I'm very excited that we've had some applicants, and we will see how the interviews go. They start Wednesday, I think. So hopefully I'll be reporting back soon that we have a new hire. For EMS, I'll start with the call report. 11 to Covert, 23 to the Village, 31 to Ulysses, 2 to Mecklenburg, 4 to Hector, and then mutual aid, 2 to Enfield, 1 to the city of Ithaca, 1 to Ovid, 2 to Romulus. So a total of 77 calls, which for a short month is about right. We are also working still towards the full conversion of the new billing company. I believe we're almost there, but it is, good times. If ever there was a way to drown in paperwork, changing municipal bank accounts and all of that is certainly it. Lastly, I want to note, thanks Jordan for jogging my memory on this one. This is the sort of award that I think I see very frequently, and it tends to, just so accustomed to it. But this one, I think, does rise to a slightly higher level. Recently, Joel and Michael Hagan were awarded the Red Cross, forgetting the name of the award. Oh, and I've just lost it. Apologies. They were awarded the Lifeline Award, which is given out annually, essentially to emergency responders who save lives directly in one instance. So this award was given for a very specific call, where Joel and Michael's response time to care provided literally in that instance saved a life. So this is really an exceptional case and an exceptional award, and I think something really worth pointing out and highlighting, both for us, right, as decision makers relative to the EMS department, but also for the community, just to be aware of the exceptional and professional service that our EMS department provides. But I will end there.
Terrific. Yes, congratulations to Joel and Mike on that well-deserved award. DPW Water Sewer, CPZR, and not too far off from the farmers market.
Not too far off. And there's actually even a farmer's market item to discuss, which is not particularly difficult, but if you folks recall the farmer's market, the bandstand there is kind of pointed at the stalls in a weird way, considering the rest of the whole market is very long this way, and there's a lot more seating for people that way. They would like to just have that gazebo moved so that it is now facing the way you would kind of expect it to be facing. So I wanted to run it by the board just to consider the concerns, but I think there's probably much of a concern. If that's the case, they're gonna work with Alan to get that shape figure out.
More of a rotation than a movement of the structure.
Yeah. Just really.
It does occur to me that moving it back might make sense though. But it's hard to picture, you know, without
back,
being there.
back closer to the
So if you're gonna point it back towards like the kids area
right.
and moving it back towards the street so that there's more room
More space there.
immediately in front of it, might make sense.
Yeah.
Without being there, it's really hard to tell.
Right.
But we didn't we put drainage in around that? Not
I think
too
they
long ago,
did, yeah.
so maybe moving it is just off the
Yeah.
table.
I don't know. I know. I'll let them sort those details, but I think we're taking it in all the sense of the world.
Yeah.
Um. And let's see, so the other two items here, one is, I'll start at the top, DPW reserves. We talked about this briefly, the idea of moving money from sales of equipment, trucks specifically, back into reserves and how we might best go about that. And so I'm back here to talk about it again. I don't know if we've gotten any further. Now that I'm talking about it, I'm wondering, Jess, if you were gonna check with anyone on like how we change that and move that money around?
I did check with Dwayne, and so it can be done simply by when we're approving it in the meeting minutes, but we wanted to make sure it makes sense with the way the board wants to make any such modification.
Right, so I think we're still trying to decide maybe as a board whether we do it kind of as these things come up. Or we lump them together at the end of the budget year and do it as one large budget model or something. I prefer, I think, just as they come, it seems less likely we'll forget them versus waiting anywhere up to, you know, a months in a couple of days sort of thing. But that would be my preference.
That as a treasurer business office, that would be more preference. It also makes the cash, see, it's just.
The sales have all completed. There's nothing else to be sold at the moment.
Yeah, no, I'm not aware of them looking to sell it anytime soon.
Yeah, that seems fine.
So my question would be if we do that for all departments. Is that a goal? Cause it seems reasonable.
I would think so. I mean, speaking from the DPW, certainly the equipment plan, like the truck replacement schedule, plans for that money kind of going back into the fund that is then used.
I believe all of our replacement schedules do.
I would think so, so.
Yes and no. I mean, it depends on the amount of this resale value of something, you know, if
Oh, that's
if
yeah,
a
some
police-
small-
if you get $4,000 for something, probably not gonna worry about it. Some of the, I know some of the, in the past, I don't know about recently. Some of the fire apparatus have actually been true trade-ins. So they
Right.
discount the price of the new one and take the old one kind of thing. So there wouldn't actually be any money to move in that case. But in this case, if we're receiving, you know, some not negligible amount of dollars. And we want to keep it earmarked for vehicles, then yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, they've tried to do more of a trade-in sort of thing. It's just a lot easier that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, like for this case, we sold a dump truck for $29,000. It's a real, yeah.
So we would need you to draft we can do it at our next meeting. If you want to draft the resolution for budget modification, it has to list the lines by budget number, because we're modifying the existing year budget,
Okay,
which was approved last April.
all right,
Budget modification to increase that particular reserve line by X dollars.
I can send you that.
I'm happy to, that's great.
Then the last one is the website services contract, so. We talked about it here that. Instead of working through FLX website. And they were working with a contractor, we were just gonna move directly to work with that contractor as FLX websites looking at kind of pivot their focus a little bit. And so there is an example. Contract in the Dropbox. Thanks to Jess for noticing this, the last page, which has the actual like amount on it that we would pay and schedule is actually not filled in. I have a vague recollection that they had actually sent us like a DocuSign e-copy version of this once we're good to go forward. So I guess we'll have to figure out the specific details, but my thought was to have us authorize Morgan to sign this contract with the payment and schedule of $399 per month, which is what we're planning on effective whenever we sign it. So I think I'll make that motion and then we'll figure out exactly if this paper copy will specific signature.
I'm sorry, and then to interject, are you looking at the document right now? With that, are there two things listed under the scopes? There's monthly things and there's general install.
Oh, it's so $0, it should be zero install.
Oh, zero install.
It
Okay.
should be zero, it does say that, both the initial setup fee and the first monthly hosting fee and project commencement, so. My understanding of what we intend to sign is zero install and $399 a month.
Thank you.
And if it is, turns out to not be that.
I'll second.
Motion and a second to authorize me to sign the contract with Red Pixel Web Design and Development for our web hosting. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, then all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, all right, police, Joanna.
Police report from Chief Nelson, we had 394 calls in February. One call for service outside the village within Tom Ulysses. And then one assist for Clemens County Sheriff Department. With a missing person. The other calls, there were 235 property checks. 50 uniform traffic tickets. 3 parking complaints, 14 EMS assists, 2 welfare checks. 1 fraud, 5 domestic disputes, no arrests. A theft, 1 psychiatric. And 17 background checks for pistols. At my last meeting with Chief Nelson, it was mostly a discussion. We went line by line with the budget, so that's pretty much it.
Okay.
From RB,
Mm-hmm. It's in mine.
is that?
It's
It's under
there.
new
It's
business.
there, sorry.
Yep.
Okay, clerk treasurer.
Okay. Continue to get positive feedback from the state of the village, residents coming in the office to pay water bills and comment on what an informative and well-formatted session that was. Please keep that. Let's see. What's that? I don't have a number from Toshiba. I thought I would. I don't. And then I just wanna comment that we sent out 837 water bills last Friday, 527 of those were emailed. And in 1 week, 150 people paid. 14% paid once. That's awesome. And that's all I have.
Okay. Moving right along. We have item number 7, which is old business. And let's tackle the budget. So we just found out there's no Toshiba quote, so that's good. We'll just plan on
My guess is.
our ability to do it. There have been a couple of changes to a couple of lines, police related. Not a significant increase. And I don't believe there were any open lines yet to be entered or discussed. So really, let's see, Jess, your very bottom line expense number is 3872129.
It is on,
Yes.
yes.
So just for for anyone keeping track at home, that represents an increase in spending over last year of 149,000, almost 150,000. We'll call it 149,800, which is roughly 4% increase year over year. After a couple of years of larger spending increases than that, of that 4%, the lion's share of it can be attributed to normal payroll increases and significant IT upgrades. And I'll lump in IT with website, e-code, or I'm sorry, the server upgrade and then general code next year. So nothing really very out of line in that spending increase. Unfortunately, the revenue line does not increase accordingly every year. And so thus we have a decision to make. I'm actually, after thinking about it, over the last several days, as well as after a meeting, which I will discuss in more detail in executive session. I'm inclined to recommend that we keep the tax rate flat and not reduce it. Because we know that assessments aren't being reevaluated this year. So we're looking at this year's assessment being the same assessment number we're using this year, we'll use again next year. There would almost definitely be, if we reduce it this year, which again, it's certainly up to the board whether we do or not. But if we reduce it this year, we will, with 100% certainty, have to raise it again next year. So really the question is, how much will we have to raise it next year? I think the more general fund balance we keep on hand, the greater the likelihood that we can offset any increase we might face next year. Does that mean we'll be able to keep the tax rate flat yet again next year? I don't know. That would be certainly my hope. I'm not gonna make that promise. If the board on the flip side, and again, we can do the math, we're talking about less than $100 on a median home in Trumansburg, for the village portion anyway. If it feels better, it feels better to drop the rate this year and then potentially have a larger increase next year and just let that be how we smooth the residents' dollar experience, then that is an option. And I haven't taken the step of really grinding through the math to see what that dollar experience is like, because we're stepping into the assessment increase. So do we lower the tax rate so they're dollar experience goes up X, and then next year it'll also go up X, even though we raise the rate more than we might want to? Or is allowing that dollar experience to be increased by Y this year and then maybe something smaller? I don't know which way is right, but it's clear to me that if we reduce the rate this year, we will need to increase it next year by potentially more than we would normally want to.
I'm on the side of keeping it where it is,
Where it is in our budget or where it is.
where we had it. Keeping it flat.
But I'm in an awkward spot of. Seeing as no one around, I almost wonder if we wanna. Weirdly go out of order and have executive session and then come back to this, because I think so much more can on that. I would say personally, putting that aside for a second. No one cares. They care what dollar, no, they. And so from my perspective, I'm much more interested in trying to focus on that, and that is a direct result of the levy. But there's a conversation to be had that we haven't had, and so I think that's more interesting than really the philosophizing around.
Well, that's fair. We could come back after executive session just to decide this rate.
And or maybe that's just a pause this still after that.
I mean, I have a feeling no one's streaming this, right? We can pause the stream and just.
Yeah, no, I think it's fair. I'd rather leave everything that can be public, and then we can,
Oh, yeah, no, I meant.
because there's more than one thing in executive session, so.
So it's gonna take a while.
Yeah.
I tend to agree. I mean, it's hard to have a conversation in abstract with.
Yeah.
The idea that we will receive new information, 15 minutes from now.
Forthwith.
That's a tricky spot to be as far as evaluating. I will say, I tend to agree with Ben that in concept, the number that matters is the levy. More than the rate. I think the rate is kind of a point of pride, I think, at least for me, right, as a member of this board, that we've kept it stable as long as we have. But in terms of what actually matters, I agree that it is, what's coming out of taxpayers' pocket. So I think with that, I would tend to lean towards what we were talking about in the last meeting, that we lower it now as a way to buffer. But without that, I'd prefer to wait until the end, circle back around after the executive.
Sound okay?
I prefer less of a fluctuation year after year,
Mhm.
so we're not guaranteed what the rate will be this year. It's not gonna stay low. Everything is going up, so I prefer to keep it near the same rate or the same rate as we had last year than going on this year and then having to raise it again next year. It is the total that people care about. Either way, people are gonna be upset that it's gonna be higher than it was. But at the same time, next year, if that change is double, they're gonna be even angrier. I know why.
Okay, so we'll come back to the rate question. Before we move to water and sewer, anything that anyone has seen or been thinking about in terms of actual spending that you would like to see be different than what's proposed?
Our conversation about ourselves, it's long.
Yeah,
Don't even think that up. Every, we talk
Yeah,
about.
Where this budget has us postponing the general code.
yes.
So
Correct.
I need to verify that it can.
I think it's worth pointing out that it's still good to talk about.
It is, yeah.
Like, I think it is important. It's important that it's out there to the -3 people watching this or whatever, but still, I think in concept, it's important.
think the only thing, like, as far as, can I talk about the crossing road?
Sure.
So I talked to, Chief Nelson about, the crossing guard position, which we have 2 positions and 2 people, or there's 3 people and 2 positions. And they have had a salary of $25 per hour for the past 4 years, without any change. And considering that 2 people are most likely not gonna continue being crossing guards, I was thinking about having that rate increase to 26, like just a flat rate. It's not really a lot, it's like 4 hours, per day, and it's 180 days out of the entire year. So, I did want to increase that.
Is that included in those?
That was
Changes?
The changes that I.
Okay. Okay. Any comments from any board members on that?
Other than that, that feels very, very reasonable.
Okay. This should be an easier one. Water. If I'm not mistaken, what you see in the proposed revenue lines are based off of expected actuals coming our way at year end or at the end of May. And what you see in expenses are all either contractual or payroll based.
Yeah, there's the one.
Billing for next month.
Also, in revenue, we took on reserve. Against.
Right. Let's see.
Oh, yeah, see this.
And I didn't project that.
Interest earned reserves, that should be, I would recommend 20,000 for that number. And engineer contractual. Only 20, I had 25. Okay. Wasn't it 25 last year?
It was 25 last year. Well, let's see,
Yes, 25.
maybe it should stay 25. I know it's 24. One of the things we were just talking to Matt about, the RD work and the water. No, sorry, it was 20 for the hydraulic mapping to start that up. But then I think there is still work for the RD grant that would be this budget year, current budget year. We probably put some wiggle room actually.
So leave it at 25.
And the Jessica.
And the rest is payroll related, like a Medicare. And water capital improvement reserve. There's 356,000, I believe, in that account. If you double check that for me, Jess. Is it March?
More. I have more 61 to go for.
Projected balance by. So
That is,
Is again how much?
that does not make sense. Yes, it does. We earned. At 460,191, which is actually the same balance. I did project interest. So it's remaining static, we have, it's the way.
So we did not contribute to that line last year, I don't believe. Any reason we need to this year?
I don't think so. The only thing is once we get that going, if we decide we want to do things, the rest of this is just for emergency breaks that we do.
And so it will be bigger, right? That's just interest earned for December. And then spend.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything, there's also like a couple years out, if we try for grants a couple more times and still nothing, we start thinking about replacing some stuff, but we probably don't plan for that, so
Right.
I think this is helpful.
So that basically then means, if these revenue numbers, which are actually a little on the conservative side,
They're quite conservative.
then we would be able to repay general another 110,000 next year. I would like to know just by year end. Well, there's a May bill. So once the May bills are collected, I'd like
Issued less.
Collected. cash in the bank,
Okay,
kind of where we are at with what's been able to be repaid.
okay, so I can tell you right now, the 121 that was budgeted last year to be paid general has been paid.
Budgeted last year, meaning in the year we're in.
Sorry, so we paid that 121,000 and that cash account is flush. I
Yes.
just want to say,
But once we have monies received, if in June or July, you're able to say that our actual receipts were X amount greater than 121,
we could,
you could begin moving more back.
okay,
In which case, that movement would happen in the new budget year. So theoretically, we could end up moving more than the 110.
okay.
Next budget.
And so you're saying 110. I'm not actually sure what 121.76 was generated in this current budget.
We balanced out the budget, just so that the reserve.
It's an equation.
It's just revenues minus expenses, whatever was left over, we put in the balance.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay.
Any questions on water? Now that we have rates fully phased in, we can let things go for a year or two and see how they shake out.
We wanna make sure it's fully paid back and then. And I think at that point, we'll have a better sense of that thing. We can plan this. I think it all kind of line up nicely, we can have a session at that point. And think about rewriting that.
Right.
That revenue.
Okay. Everyone good on water?
Yep.
Sewer. More straightforward. We have proposed revenues, which are slightly less than what we're projecting for this year's actuals. I also have 20,000 in there for the interest on reserves.
I'm sorry, say that again. It's fine.
I would use 20 for interest on reserves. And pausing for a second, there's nothing we need to do about. Well, there is actually, both for general and water and sewer. I still need to have you find out from Dwayne what the best way is to recapture that interest on reserves into the general
Yes.
account. Probably through a budget mod again of some type, but I'm not sure if that means a budget mod to reduce what we're putting into reserves by the amount of the interest earned. That probably makes the most sense, but I don't know. Dwayne has a different gap approved way to do that. On the expense side, we've got again payrolls split out into sewer. Missing any lines here?
Sewer engineering. Contractual, which is right, sorry.
Yeah.
Excel sheet 20, sheet is line 22.
Law contractual, I don't think we need anything for law unless you think otherwise.
That 259 was a fence.
Yeah. Yeah, in somebody's backyard.
Okay.
Sewer engineer, we've always had kind of a $5,000 number in there.
I'm not aware of anything.
Water sewer right now has been paying some of the GIS mapping because it benefits it as well.
Oh,
Will that continue, will it continue? Do you know, I don't do you think of that? Which is what that, basically what that 3,000.
We're doing all on that, but if there's still. Well, I think that's pretty wrapped up.
Okay.
I would tend to keep it in, I think.
Yeah, we should keep in something.
I don't need more than the 5 though.
I don't think we.
Sewage treatment and disposal equipment. I don't think there's anything planned, is there? 8130.2.
Dusting and suggest 2,000. That's kind of just regional.
Okay, 2,000 for
We
that.
also want to include 2 lines above that for sewer administration contractual, which seems to have been a placeholder. 500, so if there's something there.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I put in 500 again.
Okay.
Let's see, electric and gas, we got 385. Manholes.
Yeah, but I haven't heard, I haven't seen a quote coming for that, he said the pricing comes in.
Yeah, I was pushing him, I would say we would put in 20.
20.
We go to the 20 and I'll talk to them. Now, I think our idea is mostly to kind of hit that target and just go for work.
Insurance bond principal. Okay. Sewer reserve, we did not contribute the last couple of years. How much is in that? Right.
There's 3,000 in the rate stabilization.
Right, so 158 in sewer, 409, almost 410 in election system repair.
Yeah,
Well, where do we want to put the? What line do we want to balance this budget in?
I would do. So the thing on my mind is getting us to start working on sewer main replacement. That's gonna come out of the election system. If I, so at the same time, it's doing well.
Sewer, the other sewer reserve is,
I think that's more for the plan versus election. That's. I could be up for kind of actually just splitting it 50-50 between the two.
Do rate stabilization collection.
No, collection and capital improvement.
230, 232.
Take out the rate stabilization, like use the last bit in there, and just close out that. Well, there's rate stabilization money on it too. Savings in the reserves tab, yes, it's.
I thought we used that last year, Jess, didn't we?
Maybe it just hasn't.
Let me look into that. Um,
Fifty-five, fund appropriate from debt reserve. Yeah.
I mean, this year, like within this year's. Fiscal year we're in, we did not budget it.
Sorry, we talked. I was looking at 2024-25 adopted water rate stabilization. 3563, which I assume was this current.
I thought that closed that out, yeah.
In water?
Yeah, so I'm looking at the revenue side of the water.
Oh, revenues and expenses, I don't see anything from that. So. That's not reflected really on my reserves. I would need to, so if I haven't, then I will, and if I.
Well,
have-
but we had appropriated only $3,500 for rate stabilization and water in the current year. You're showing $32,000 in water rate stabilization reserve. I thought we had drawn that down already. So I'll need you to check what's actually in F233 in the bank. And whatever is there, we need to draw because that's owed to general. And if it wasn't drawn in some prior year when it should have been, that would partly explain why water was borrowing from general. Same thing with the sewer rate stabilization. If there's anything. If there's anything left there.
So I think that the thing with the sewer rate, is that. Why, for example, it isn't already zeroed out, because we definitely, we intended to zero it out, but then more interest is earned. And the number gets,
Let's find out what's there.
but we're still gonna have to project or just stop feeding it any interest for the rest of this year, do you see what I mean? If you said there's 66,000 in there right now, but it actually then earned another 3,000 in interest because of the way.
Right, so find out what the balance is.
Yeah.
And then draw it. And we'll budget mod it in the current year if it's a small dollar.
Okay,
If it's water and it's a larger dollar, then we'll have to budget to do it and do it up front.
Okay.
In June. Which still leaves back to sewer. So about 119,549 is what I'm getting from the revenue or excess revenue in sewer.
yeah, the total revenue is 609.
Yep.
And so you're deciding as a team where you put that.
Right.
I think just on your sheet, you don't have the volume for vandalism.
Do
Oh,
you
no,
want
I
to
don't, I guess, I don't see your changes. Let's see. So, You're saying what orders?
119,549.
Yes, I'm saying one.
Just clarify the revenue expenditures, sorry.
Sorry, you for revenue, what is it?
609,200.
For expenses?
489,651.
Well, anyhow, I would say let's put that 50/50 into G 230, G 232.
Doesn't split super cleanly, so let's say sewer reserve, let's do the 59,549.
Yeah.
60,000 even into 232. Okay, any questions on sewer?
So what did that not work? 59,065.
59,549.
Oh.
Questions on sewer? Okay. So you'll follow up, you'll let us know what you find about the rate stabilization reserves and those two funds.
Yeah, let's do it.
And then you let us know what Dwayne says about extracting interest
Yes.
from all the reserve accounts. Okay. Anything else budget until we come back to it at the end on the rate question? Okay. I think I'd like to move sidewalk repair conversation to our second meeting. If there's no objection. And then update on solar and energy contracts. Is that time sensitive? Ish.
Not, let's see, let's actually split that. Let's talk about solar very briefly and then push.
Okay.
Just on the solar side. Boy, I'm losing track of this thing. Anyhow, I took the contracts we looked at, sent them to both Terry and Guy. And got some comments on it. Just to give an update, I'm gonna ask Guy if he's okay with me sharing those comments with power management. I don't think he has a concern, but we'll see. I don't know if he kind of framed them towards us versus the external money. The thought there is that power management is not the one we're contracting with, but they kind of know what's flexible, what's not. We'll work for much of them in short order. If that goes well, then I would say we probably go forward. If it tends to be more of a slog and Guy's got some real concerns and those things are harder to change. I'm cognizant of the savings here is in the few $1,000s, which could be evaporated by Guy's time. And so I'm hesitant to go much further than that. If there's a small number of things, and I can kind of just use my judgment or confer with Gordon. Maybe I'll put Guy in touch directly to try to hammer out one or two last things, but that's kind of my plan. I'm happy to take any feedback or comments on that. To try and move the solar part forward. I still do think it's a good idea, both from a energy perspective and from it could save us a couple bucks. But I'm also aware that the size of the savings only goes so far, both in time and money. So I was much more excited about this maybe a month or two ago. My energy is fading, so we'll see how far I can go, but if there's any concerns there, do let me know, otherwise. The energy is a whole other thing and happy to talk about that. Energy costs are so high right now that doesn't make sense to watch anything, even if we wanted to, so. It's not a conversation, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm generally okay with you with it, Guy. Figuring some, I don't know that Guy loves, well. I'll be interested to find out whether he minds you sharing his comments either, but
Yeah,
I'm generally fine with that approach unless anyone else has any.
That's okay.
what I don't have time or energy or just doing is getting into the weeds enough that I can represent something to anybody, so the most I would be doing is putting people in touch, and if that does not work, then I'm back out. So.
That sounds good. Any other items of old business? Which takes us to new business. We have a resolution at the request of the conservatory asking us if we would approve a resolution supporting their application for a Southern Tier Regional Economic Development Council grant. Hopefully everyone's had a chance to review it. Some whereases we've used in the past. And they are already in phase 1A of the renovation and are looking for funding to continue. And so I would entertain a motion to approve and adopt this resolution in support of the Trumansburg Conservatory of Fine Arts and their application for a Southern Tier REDC grant, if someone would like to move that.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments or questions? I didn't see anything that needed editing. So we're good unless anyone else sees anything.
I'm sure it said 1B and the new estimated project size or cost. It's the right. Or
Yes, it would be 532.4. Good. Okay, then all in favor of approving and adopting this resolution in support of the conservatory's application, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Which brings us to our good friends MRB. Has everyone had a chance to look at the full email, which is in the Dropbox, I believe? Yes. The full email with the various MRB proposals. Has everyone had a chance to review that?
For the police department, right?
No, there was an email with other.
Oh, okay, sorry.
It's called police though. In the Dropbox, it's police.
Oh, okay.
You were looking at the right one.
and it starts with the police.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
police concept study MRB email. It's 8B. It's the Dropbox item.
Okay.
So I want to separate out in the email, I want to separate out some of the bullet points. Starting with the we'll start in reverse order. So the hydraulic water model has been mentioned in engineering contractual alignment water. So this is, kind of ongoing water work. The grant, moving up to the third bullet point, grant agreement. This was an idea that they developed rather than every time a grant application or grant applications begin to be accepted or a grant is announced. Normally in the past, what they would do is they would develop a proposal that says, if you want to apply for this grant, here's how much it'll cost in our time. What they're suggesting is rather than doing that, they would create a larger grant agreement with a cap, a dollar cap, in this case, $15,000, and they would then be able to pursue or discuss or write grants as they occur without needing approval for spend for each one. If we end up applying for so many grants that we bump into that $15,000 number, then at that point, they would have to come up with a proposal for that next thing. We know that there is the potential for congressional earmarks. Since we got one, we may as well go back to the well, no pun intended. Congressional earmarks for water projects. The New York State Volunteer Fire Grant, which we did apply for last year, did not receive any funding, has been reopened this year. Although the actual deadlines and so forth haven't been announced yet. And then whatever else might come up. So that's another proposal. And these are all separate. We don't have to accept any of them. We don't have to accept them all. We can pick and choose. So that's again in reverse order of the email. That's the other one for us to consider. Rural Development Water Report update. The second bullet point. This would be updating a report they created in 2022 when we applied for a rural development grant. And
It was different grants through water quality.
was it the, okay. Oh, was it the QI?
I think that,
So this would be updating the report. And as you can see in the email, Matt says we're uncertain how the earmark request will go, so we would recommend getting this updated as there is the potential for a significant grant through rural development. So this is one of those, we're not sure if we'll use this, but we might need it, so we may as well update it. That's another one
well,
again.
there's two venues for water funding. One is a congressional earmark, which they kind of some bullet points down in the grant agreement. And then there's also rural development. So I think we still want to go for both likely, and so we'll definitely need this for rural development. It may also be helpful for the congressional.
And then the first bullet point is kind of the larger fleshed out proposal that you saw, which would be essentially to do architecture and structural assessment. So it's not quite full-blown engineering for the proposed renovation in the police department. And so those are the four proposals. There's no real time crunch, although some of the grant stuff is coming out, soon. We just don't have exact dates. So if there was a desire to think this over and discuss it on the 24th, we can, but I wanted to at least get an initial sense of what we thought. I don't mind saying this publicly because I've said it to their faces. So I don't feel like I'm being duplicitous in any way. I appreciate the work that MRB does. I think it's very high quality work. And I think that particularly on the grant side, that part of their business model has grown significantly over the past many years. I think they do a good job. They did in fact write the grant for sidewalk for us, so that they certainly know what they're doing when it comes to the grant writing. However, every once in a while, I start to feel like the go-to client when there's a need to make sure that business remains strong. And that's okay too. That's the business they're in. I get it. I'm getting a little bit of that feeling when I saw this email. So I wanted to just, and I've said that to them too. I said, I appreciate what they do, and I I don't want that last statement to diminish the first. But it's also not my money, so
Right.
there's that feeling as well. So with that in mind, any comments or thoughts on any or all of this?
Does the benefit outweigh the cost as far as our grant, the grant agreement piece? I mean, 15,000 hourly, or up to 15,000. How much are these grants? Like
How much would we be applying for?
Right.
Well, V-Fire would be $1 million, is their max. Congressional earmarks, the last time around, they're capped at 3.5. That's what I was told. I know that there are congressional earmarks for more than that, but in terms of municipal ask, we were told that 3.5 was the top end. Water is going to be somewhere in that neighborhood. You know, water is one of those open-ended ones when it comes to rural development and EFC. But basically, it lets you ask for whatever you need, and they'll decide how much they'll give you. So we ended up getting, what did we get for the water system? I think 2.5 for the water system, 2 something for sewer. So these are large dollar grants. And in the case of the water stuff, probably things we can't do without grant money.
What are the other options for grants?
Hire a professional grant writer or find another firm that wants to compete with these bids. And I haven't, although we looked at it a little bit at the LDC level, you know, the $3,000 to $5,000 range for a grant proposal is not unusual. You know, I don't feel that these numbers themselves are in any way inflated. At least on the grant writing side. I will hedge that statement a little bit. The grant writing side, I think, is fair. It's not a, I don't think we're getting a discount over the marketplace.
Right.
For grant writing, but I don't feel that it's out of line. It would also be perfectly fair if we wanted to make some phone calls.
It would also be fair, I think, to expect a discount, right? Because I think your gut on this, that it does feel a little bit like the cookie jar, is because they're essentially saying we want to not do proposals anymore. That's like free work that we do for you, right? That's like work we do for. So we'd like to streamline. It feels reasonable that there'd be some discount there, perhaps. I would say I don't know enough about those grants, right? Like it's you and Ben, I think we're working mostly grants. I think as long as there's a sort of go, no go, like check in before they proceed with any given opportunity.
Well,
I think this is fine. My bigger concern would be for the police piece, right? I feel like if we're going for the local contractor model of things, once we have this engineering in hand, we've probably taken our first step sort of in the other direction, would be my guess, right? Like, I don't think we can take that engineering and go back towards, would be my guess. Not that we couldn't necessarily, but it would be increasingly. That would be my guess, but I would defer to the two of you, I think, as far as the broader proposal. With the statement that I would be fine if we want to, push it out. Make some calls.
Yeah, also looking at this, I'm not particularly concerned. I kind of actually like the grant agreement approach of just simplifying that. Certainly it simplifies their side as well, but I think it also simplifies our side. There's a whole extra step of we decide we want to go for something, get a proposal, get it forward, approve it, like it adds a month easily to kind of getting up and going on any of these things. I think my thing for me, honestly, looking at it and hearing, that these aren't out of size for the dollar amount for going after these grants, is more about trying to be as aware as we can of like where we have a good chance of a grant or not. It felt like
Like earmarks are probably not great this year.
Yeah, I don't know. They like, and that's the thing that I don't know. Like, we went after an UIP, like a water quality grant. 2 years in a row, and like, I think they were good about it. The second time was not as expensive as the first, obviously, but still. It's always a gamble, right? That's the 5,000 you're throwing down the toilet to put your hat in it, and then maybe you don't get it, you try again, you don't get it. In retrospect, our water quality is actually quite good. Maybe that wasn't the best direction to go. So, it's like, that's the thing that I'm a little bit more, to be more cognizant of, if we can get a better sense of like when's is real deal. The rural development, they seem much more excited about. How to get any more signal than that, I don't really know. But that's why I'm actually a little more interested in going after this now, so. I don't know, that, it's kind of just random thoughts. I don't have a particular problem with. Or any of the proposals that they have. Would be willing to move forward. I don't know as much of this on the second on the water. The granting and stuff. Seems early as well.
Do we have a sense of how much that RD water report cost to have done in 2022?
I have all of it somewhere, but
I can just estimate.
yeah. We've got grant application. That was. That submission. This is like, I'm not sure that this is right. I think
Well, why don't we do this then? So we've put the water engineering budget line at 20. Well, 25 actually, but we're planning on 20 a year. So we'll kind of accept the hydraulic water model proposal by virtue of what we're funding in the budget.
Okay.
The grant agreement, $15,000 not to exceed number. I agree that it's nice to not have to come back every time there's a grant that we want to apply for. I do want to have a conversation with them about something like, like V-Fire. Not only, to Ben's point about water, not only do we want to apply for grants that we have best chance of getting, maybe being a little bit more selective. But when we do apply for things that, because I want to go after the V-Fire again. When we do multiple attempts, would like to see year 2 be a lot cheaper than year 1, right? There's no new, especially if it's a carbon copy grant application like this V-Fire is likely going to be.
Right, because how much work is that gonna require when it's already been done? It's just resubmitting the grant.
Right.
So we shouldn't have to pay. The full
yeah, not the same.
Right,
There's something to do to read and put it back in.
Yeah.
It's like it
Having now done multiple rounds of annual grant applications, it's more work than you think the second time around.
yeah,
right.
But
more but
agreed.
less work,
Agreed.
right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's no work. But
Right,
it's not.
that's not what I
If
said.
it's $5,000 the first time, it doesn't need to be $5,000 the second time. Even if it's 4, it's 20%.
Mhm.
The RD water report, I think having that water report done and up to date is worthwhile. Police department, I have lots of questions.
I have questions too.
Yeah, he put all of this together. This is the first we've heard of the police department since they were here. So he's lumping all of this together. Yeah. And this is one of those conversations I know they're being thorough, but this kind of goes against some of what I said when they were here that day. This is the version that ends up coming back with, you need to take off the back half of the building and redo everything.
Exactly.
I know 3 local contractors off the top of my head who would do a good job coming in and just making it work. The flip side is, since we're not spending our own money, we're spending taxpayer dollars, do we have any kind of obligation to make sure it's done to some certain level of engineering spec? I don't know that that's the case, but someone somewhere might make that argument.
Did you ask a question for me about what sort of certification you need to have to make a change in a public space? Like, do you need an architect's stamp that says this is approved, load bearing, won't crash on it? Or you need the code officer to inspect it and say this fits all the compliance and all that? Or do you have an
Andy.
architect or an engineer?
It has nothing to do with whether it's a public space. It has everything to do with state building code. So whether it's commercial, residential, public space would be commercial access, public access, just like a commercial building.
Okay.
So, ADA compliance, Tom would have to answer the question of whether you need stamped engineering plans or not.
Okay.
If you do a major renovation of the first floor of a Main Street property, you may not need stamped plans.
Okay.
If the code enforcement officer says it's a class, I forget what it was, class B property used for this purpose, then you need X, Y, and Z. So again, that would be a Tom question. So for a public access, I guess this would probably fall under a similar, well, it would have to fall under, my expectation is that it would fall under state building code as an office building,
Which is not Tom's purview.
which isn't Tom's purview.
So.
But that the requirements on that would be different than, say, a commercial building where you're machining
Yeah,
steel,
sure.
right? So, structural evaluation. Tom may have an opinion on some of these bullet points.
And he's certainly certified to be able to determine that,
Yeah.
right? I mean, sometimes with these,
Certification right now.
I mean, sometimes too, knowing that I've ripped up many a house, you never know what you're gonna get into with these old buildings when you start budging around either, but.
Right, and part of my concern is, if we're doing structural evaluation of the foundation of a building that is as old as this one. I think we would be heading in a different direction when it comes to the eventual work.
Is there a reasonable worry about our changing walls and stuff?
We'd be moving some walls, non-load bearing. Unless
That sounds like the engineering assessment.
the engineering suggests that we start doing a lot more than that. That's part of my concern. Any other thoughts, comments?
So it's just hard to say until Tom, maybe we consult with Tom on the code issue, right?
Yeah, we can certainly talk with Tom about whether we need a structural assessment on this
Right.
property. I think the answer is no, but we can confirm.
Well, and if Joanne hasn't seen this until right now, or, at least until this, I'd be inclined to just wait and have you sort of figure it out with the chief and the Tom.
Because our initial thought was to go with local, right? Local builders. If it seemed to not be,
I
We're
mean,
just gonna need plans though, so if you wanna go with the contractor, then you can architectural floor plan. So that's just part of it.
Mhm.
Yeah, that means in the work right then.
necessarily.
Unless they're an architect on the team.
I mean, you don't need architectural plans drawn by an architect. There's a lot of different ways you can do it. I guess, I guess what I'm saying is, as a board, I don't know that we need to be this granular, and this is I would happily defer to Joe. Chief, Tom, however that goes, and then sort of reassess unless.
I just. clarify. Okay.
I did. No.
All right, well, I will, if you want to take some time to think through it, maybe talk it over with Chief and Tom. See what he thinks.
Who is owing to East Wednesday, certification.
So end of this week, early next, whenever you get a chance, and then just let me know what your leanings are. Then we can revisit it on the 24th.
I did find what I think is the price for
Bless you.
the water study.
Thank you.
The engineer one. Now it's 27,500, though it did include also submission for the grant. So maybe on at least 20,000.
Okay,
Study.
okay.
Not up to 5,000, and what's the hourly rate?
Up to, you're talking about the,
Protocol.
oh, yeah, 5,000.
Yeah, they didn't say what they're out.
Nice. I'll find out what that is.
And then estimated number of hours.
Okay. To be continued then on the police piece in particular. Any other items of new business? No members of the public present in person or online, so I would entertain a motion to go into executive session to discuss a front office personnel matter as well as collective bargaining subject to the Taylor law.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.